Hello everyone and welcome to Music Theory with Gim. In this installment of Analyzing Harmony, we're going to delve into Night Owl from Stunt Race FX on the Super Nintendo. Before we get into any music theory, however, let's take a listen to the music. The theme is set in the tonality of E with its mode being major. This, however, is not made known definitively until measure 3 sounds E major, the 1, since the introductory segment sounds chromatic chords in measures 1 and 2 that relate to the tonal center in retrospect. In measure 1, we hear A minor, the minor 4 chord outlined by the bass. We then jump right into a series of rhythmic hits beginning with A minor 7, the minor 4/7, and ending with F major, the flat 2. Between these 2 points, we hear a chromatically descending line, and though we could go in and try to label each of these moments as different chords, I don't view them as harmonic moments in the sense that they need chord symbols. Instead, I view it as simple counterpoints embellishing the motion from A minor 7 to F major. To me, placing chord symbols atop each level of descents would be completely void of any real meaning beyond just labeling for the sake of labeling, especially since G and C are pedaled over this descending line. But if that's what you need to do, then feel free to go for it. So again, I just view this as being essentially A minor 7 to F major, but instead of directly moving from one chord to the next, we hear the arrival of the flat 2 delayed by a chromatically descending line. It is also worth noting that the rhythmic sequence of dotted eighth notes stops the moment we arrive to F major, which, to me, indicates structural value. Anyways, after sitting on F major for a single beat, we arrive to the tonic chord, which is E major, the 1. So altogether, the introduction is a minor 4, flat 2, 1 progression. Before we move on to the next section, let's take a listen to the introduction in full. As we listen to it, be mindful of how the arrival of E major introduces new musical elements, which is a great way to indicate the arrival of something significant, which in this case is the establishment of the tonality and its mode. Following the introduction, we enter into the main loop of the theme, and here we're met with a repeating 4-measure phrase that consists of E major, the 1, A minor over C, the minor 4/6, and F major, the flat 2. Wait a second. It almost seems like the introduction was trying to inform us of something, but I can't quite put my finger on it. Anyways, the measures containing A minor over C can potentially be reinterpreted in 2 ways. Firstly, G appears in the melody, and as such you might choose to view it as the 7th, making A minor 7 over C the minor 4/6/5. I don't view it as such because I don't really hear the 7th operating as a chordal tone, but more so as a colorful note of the melody, and the use of A at this point would break the flow of parallel thirds which are used throughout this measure. That said, interpreting it as a minor 7th chord is perfectly fine. The other option would be to view it as a C major chord with an added 6th, which is the same pitch collection as an A minor 7. I don't view it as being a C major 6 because of the melody's structural design as well as the connection to the theme's introduction. And though we could go deeper into the melody, we're going to wait to do that until we analyze this theme in an episode of Analyzing Melody. And even when we analyze the melody, it's still up to you to decide how you hear this particular measure. For me, it's A minor over C. With that all in mind, let's talk about the section as a whole. To me, it is essentially a prolongation of the tonic area. The two non-tonic chords, A minor over C and F major, are used to expand E major by moving away from it and returning shortly after. As a result, we can view them as being prolongational neighbor chords. When we enter into the following section, we have in the first two measures, G major, the flat 3, D major over A, the flat 7-6-4, G major over B, the flat 3-6, and then again D major over A. This is then repeated verbatim, with the exception of the second D major over A being replaced by E7, which will be used as a dominant emulation intensifying forward motion to the following chord, A minor. As such, we can label E7 as a 5-7 of the minor 4 chord. Overall, this section is really simple, but before we move forward, let's talk about its structural design. I view this section as structurally being the flat 3 chord, G major, which is embellished by a passing 6-4 chord. Because of this focus on the flat 3, we can choose to relabel the chords in relation to the flat 3 up until E7. This would reinterpret the section as using the 1, 5-6-4, and 1-6. Personally, I wouldn't think of this as a modulation in the fullest sense because the development of G major is so minimal, but I would certainly make note of the focus being shifted to the flat 3, especially when looking at the theme from a global perspective. Following the push forward generated by E7, we find ourselves in the final section of the theme, which, as mentioned before, begins with A minor, the minor 4. This is absolutely my favorite section of the theme because it's so bold and dramatic, and it's really the reason I chose to transcribe it and analyze it. And the reason it sounds this way is because the first 4 measures of the section are built around a sequence of chromatic mediants, specifically chords of minor quality related by an ascending minor third. First we hear A minor, then C minor, D sharp minor, and lastly F sharp minor. Though technically C to D sharp is an augmented second, and harmonically it is a minor third, and we still hear the chromatic mediant relationship. And the reason I opted for these particular spellings is because of the tonal relation and how these chords are structurally being used, specifically F sharp minor. Before we can talk further about the structural design, we need to look at what comes after F sharp minor, which is B7, the 5-7, which is used to bring the loop to a close with a half cadence. Now that we're looking at the progression as a whole, can you see an underlying structural design? For me, the structural harmonies are A minor, the 4, F sharp minor, the 2, and B7, the 5-7. C minor and D sharp minor, the minor flat 6 and 7 chords, are the intermedial parts of a sequential progression, and as such they are prolongational. So structurally we have A minor, F sharp minor, and B7. With A minor and F sharp minor being embellished by C minor and D sharp minor. To me, this is a very cool example of chromatic mediants, and that is because it demonstrates how dramatic chromaticism can be used to, ultimately, create something that is extremely functional. Though the chords might sound far-reaching from one to the next, the section as a whole has a clear sense of direction. And the moment you hear F sharp minor progress to B7, you know exactly where you are in the tonality. Now that we have an understanding of how the harmony is working within each section, let's take a look at the harmony of the theme's loop as a whole so that we can better understand its global design. So in the first section, we have a prolongation of the tonic area via neighbor chords, which makes complete sense considering it is the first section of the loop. After sitting here for a short while, the theme shifts focus to the chromatically altered mediant area, that is until we hit E7, which throws us into the final section, and here the section structurally uses the minor 4 and 2 chords as a means to arrive to the 5-7, putting us in the dominant area and ending the theme with a half cadence. Interestingly enough, when reduced like this, we have the chords E major, G major, A minor, F sharp minor, and B7. I say this is interesting because E major to G major is a chromatic mediant relationship built with 2 major triads in ascending minor third apart, and A minor to F sharp minor forms a second chromatic mediant relationship built with 2 minor triads a descending minor third apart. Whether or not this was intentional or even realized after the fact by the composer Shinobu Amayake, I have no idea, but that's not really the point. Really, the only reason I mention this relationship between the structural harmonies is because it's something you can now choose to think about the next time you're composing. Anyways, now that we have both a local and global understanding of the harmony, let's take another listen to the theme and then bring this episode to a close. For those of you that are patrons, you can expect to receive a PDF containing this analysis. As mentioned before, I do intend to use Night Owl in an episode of Analyzing Melody, which should be made available to you at least a month before it's publicly released. Of course, in the meantime, it is encouraged that should you have any thoughts or questions regarding the analysis or the theme as a whole, reach out to me. For those of you that are not patrons but would like to support the channel, be certain to subscribe and click the bell for notifications, like the video, comment below, and share this video as often as you can on social media platforms. Should you feel the urge to take your support to the next level, hop on over to patreon.com/gem and consider pledging some coin. If you're not a user of Patreon or simply want to make a non-recurring donation, you can do so at ko-fi.com/musictheorywithgem. These videos do take a lot of time and effort, so any support on your end is greatly appreciated. Either way, until next time, thank you for watching this episode of Music Theory with Gem.